I keyed the beacon myself. That's the thing nobody else on this transport will say out loud, so I will. I keyed it. I checked it twice the way my own father taught me, and I still got it wrong. We had 11 days of recycled air left when I sat down at the console. The transport's name was the Open Ledger, which somebody on a different ship decades ago must have thought was funny. There is nothing funny in a hold built for 200 and carrying 340, half of them children, all of them counting down toward a lottery cutoff that didn't care how the counting felt. My daughter is 11. The Haven takes entries up to age 12. After that the math changes, not cruelly, just completely, the way a door changes from open to wall. I had 406 lottery points logged against her name, earned over 6 years of relay work and supply runs, anything that paid in Haven credit instead of currency. I needed 412. I had 11 days of air and 6 days of fuel to close that gap, and the only way left was the beacon, the colony's own entry relay, the one that converted emergency labor hours into points if you reached it inside the window. I had the relay's designation memorized. Coordinate string, 11 digits, the kind of number you say to yourself in the dark like a prayer because saying it enough times is supposed to make your hands steady when it matters. My hands were not steady. I transposed the 7th and 8th digits. A fatigue error, the kind every duty log on every ship has a column for and nobody ever fills in until afterward. And I sent our beacon, our work request, our entire remaining hope, 11 digits long and 2 digits wrong, into open space. It should have died there. Most stray signals do. Space is mostly the absence of anyone listening. 6 hours later, something answered. I almost didn't tell my daughter. I told her anyway, because lying to an 11-year-old about whether help is coming felt like a worse use of the time we had left than telling her the truth and being wrong. The ship that found us was not what I expected, and not what the beacon had ever been built to summon. It came in slow, running light steady. Hull scarred the particular gray-brown of something that had taken weather and debris and kept flying anyway. A survey freighter. Not armed by the registry markings, except it answered our hail with a weapon status readout I hadn't asked for, unprompted, like the pilot wanted us to know exactly what kind of help had shown up before we had to ask. Open Ledger, this is the freighter Corrigan's Reach, the voice said, accented in a way I'd only heard twice before, both times from humans. We caught a beacon on our corridor watch band 11 minutes ago. You're not on our registry. You want to tell me what that beacon was actually supposed to reach? I told him, all of it. The lottery, the relay, the digits I'd gotten wrong with shaking hands, and 40 years of scarcity behind them. There was a long pause on the channel, long enough that I assumed the connection had failed. That relay's not in this sector, he said finally. It's not in this system. You missed it by about 11 light years and rerouted straight into a watch band Earth's had standing since before either of us was alive. You didn't call us. I want you to understand that. You called somebody else and we picked up anyway. I said the only honest thing I had. I know. 11 days of air, he said. It wasn't a question. He'd have read it off our distress packet, the automated line every transport appends to a beacon. Current consumables, current population, current rate of loss. We're not Havenside. We can't get you points. We can't get you through anybody's lottery gate. I know that too. Good, he said, because here's what we can do instead. What the Corrigan's Reach could do, it turned out, was modest by the scale of things and enormous by the scale of our hold. 3 atmospheric scrubber cores, meant for the freighter's own long-haul reserve, borrowed forward against our next supply stop, the captain called it, in a tone that made clear he expected to explain that decision eventually and didn't much care. A water reclamation unit, salvaged off a derelict they'd been hauling for scrap, repurposed in 4 hours by an engineer who didn't sleep. And fuel, not enough for the Haven Gate, nothing was enough for that, but enough for the nearest inhabited relay station, 6 days out instead of running on fumes. It wasn't an armada. It wasn't even, by the freighter's own paperwork, supposed to be armed. It was one ship, off its assigned route, giving us pieces of itself because a beacon meant for somewhere else had happened to brush past its watch band at the right 11 minutes. The captain came aboard once briefly to confirm the scrubber installation himself. He was younger than I expected, tired in the specific way of someone several shifts past when he should have stopped. He found me in the cargo bay where my daughter was sleeping against a crate, and he looked at her for a moment too long before he spoke. "For what it's worth," he said, "your cutoff math was never going to add up in 11 days regardless of where the beacon went, even if you'd hit the Haven relay dead on. 412 points isn't an 11-day problem. It's a 6-year problem you were already losing before you sat down at that console." I didn't have an answer for that because it was true, and I had known it was true, and I had sent the beacon anyway because doing the math out loud and doing nothing about it were two different kinds of failure, and I could only stomach committing to one of them. "So why help," I said, "if you know it doesn't fix the real number?" He looked at the scrubber readout, not at me. "Because the real number isn't ours to fix. The 6-day number is. We can do the 6-day number." He paused. "We're not going to make your gate. I want to be straight with you about that before you build a hope you can't afford. But you're not going to run out of air doing it, and that's not nothing, even if it feels like it from where you're sitting." He was right that it felt like nothing, at first. The hold was quieter that night than it had been in days, not from relief, but from the particular silence of people doing arithmetic they didn't want to say out loud either. We didn't make the gate. I want to say that plainly, the way the captain said it to me, because softening it would be its own kind of lie. The lottery cutoff closed 11 days later while we were still 4 days out from the relay station, and my daughter turned 11 and a half somewhere in the gap between the two clocks, and there was no beacon, no freighter, no 11 minutes of luck that was going to move that particular line. But we were breathing when it closed, all 340 of us breathing. On working scrubbers, with water that wasn't rationed down to nothing, 6 days from a station with a working medical bay and an open relay. And the captain told me before he broke contact. A flagged note in the system that says to keep an ear on your registry number going forward, in case anybody else ever needs to know where you ended up. I asked him once, near the end, why the freighter's own paperwork insisted it wasn't armed when it so clearly was. "Because most of the time it doesn't need to be," he said. "And the times it does, the paperwork's the last thing anybody's reading." I filed an incident report once we reached the relay station. Every transport captain does, even when the incident in question is a stranger's kindness instead of a catastrophe. I wrote down the coordinate error precisely. Digits 7 and 8, transposed, 11 light years off target. I wrote down that the response was a single unarmed on-paper freighter. No convoy, no formal alert, just a watch band that happened to be listening, and a crew that decided 11 minutes was enough warning to act on. I did not write down that I have run that transposed string through every spare hour since, turning it over like a coin I can't believe I found. I did not write down that some part of me, the part that still, 4 years on, keeps my daughter's points folder updated out of habit more than hope, wonders whether the colony's own relay, fully staffed, would have answered as fast as a watch band built for somebody else's emergencies did. I don't think it would have. I think that's the part nobody at the lottery gate wants printed on the forms. What I did write in the report's recommendations line was this, that the relay station keep our registry on file, the way the Corrigan's Reach asked them to. Not because anyone owed us further help. We'd had our 11 minutes, our 6 days, 3 scrubber cores we never paid back. But because somewhere out past the gate we never reached, my daughter is still growing up on a ship, instead of inside a wall built to keep people like her out of the count. And I would rather a stranger's watch band stayed open for whoever sends the next wrong number than see it closed because nobody filed the note. The captain never told me his name. I have it anyway, off the freighter's registry, off the line item where his crew signed for the scrubber cores they didn't have to give us. I don't use it in the report. Some debts you carry without writing them where anyone else can find them.